Hey guys, today we are going to start solving quadratics. A quadratic equation, remember, just has an x squared with it. We're going to talk about three different methods. The first one we're going to talk about today is solving by factoring. To solve by factoring, we have three different steps. Your first one, make sure it's in standard form. So remember that means that all the numbers and letters have to be on one side and it has to be set equal to 0. If it's not in that format, you will have to rearrange the terms to put it in standard form. Step 2, you are going to factor one side of your equation using one of our previous methods, GCF, AC, or difference of squares. You can also use a combination of any of those methods. Your third step would be to set each factor equal to 0 and solve for x. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at our first example. So for my first example, I have 5x squared plus 11x minus 2 equals a negative 4. So right away, I see that it equals negative 4, so that means it does not equal 0, which means right now it is not in standard form. So the very first thing I have to do before I can start anything is change it to standard form. So what I want to do is move that negative 4 over, and I'm going to put it under the like term, which would be that negative 2. So I'm going to bring down the two terms I didn't use. When I combine right here, we get a positive 2. And then those negative 4 and positive 4s cancel, and we have a 0. So now I have all my terms on one side. It's set equal to 0, so it is in standard form. So now I can go on to step 2, which was factor. If I look, I have 1, 2, 3 terms. So that means I'm going to do my AC method for my method of factoring. So to perform my AC method, make sure you take a look at your signs. This one tells me I'm going to have two signs that are the same in my table. This sign tells me I will have a positive number for the larger of the two. So I'm going to make my AC table off to the side. The A value is 5, the C value is 2. Multiply those two together to get my AC is 10. The B value is 11. So I'm going to list my factors of 10. And when I do that, make sure you include your signs. I know they are going to have the same signs, and the larger one is positive. To figure out my second column, all I have to do is add up my two previous numbers. So 1 plus 10 is 11, 2 plus 5 is 7. So this tells me the pair of numbers I'm going to use is the positive 1 and positive 10. So I'm going to go ahead and clear away some space for us so that we can get started with our AC method. So remember, for our AC, we've dropped down the first term. That stays exactly the same. The middle term, I am breaking apart using these two values from my AC table. So I'm going to include a plus 1x and a plus 10x. Then I'm going to bring down that third term, that plus 2, and this equals 0, we just carry along. So now I'm going to focus on my left side of the equation for my AC. I'm going to go ahead and group my first two and last two terms. I'm going to take a GCF away from each group. So in my first group, I can take out an x. I'm left with 5x plus 1. In my second group, I can take out a positive 2. I am left with 5x plus 1. Notice that equals 0 is just going to get carried along, but you don't have to do anything with it. From here, we have our two groups that are exactly the same. So that means we did our AC method correctly. So I'm going to factor out that group that is the same. My second group is going to be my two GCFs that are left over, the x and the plus 2. So that is our AC method. Our last step is to set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So this is one factor, 5x plus 1 equals 0. My second factor is the second group, which is the x plus 2 equals 0. So now I'm going to take each one of these little mini equations and solve each of them for x. So in my first one, 5x plus 1 equals 0, I'm going to subtract the 1 to the other side. This is just our normal solving equations. And divide by 5. And I'm left with x equals a negative 1/5. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my second equation. And by doing that, I get my two final answers. We would have x equals negative 2 and x equals a negative 1/5. So this is how you would solve using factoring. You're factoring just like we normally do. The last step, that step 3, is the new one. Set each factor equal to 0 and solve, which is what I did right here. Good luck, guys.